Go ahead.
Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at all Helping Parents Heal meetings is voluntary. All discussions that take place at affiliate-led meetings are confidential. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children and loved ones who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here with us. Thank you, Stephen, for being with us. Oh, I'm so excited for this evening.
Yes, we're both really excited for this evening, and Stephen is such a great person. I want to tell you all, first of all, Irene and I have read this beautiful book that he wrote with his wife, Lauren, and it was such an uplifting book to read. He has had so many life experiences, and I know that a lot of you have heard of and watched What Dreams May Come, as well as so many other movies that he's produced, such as Somewhere in Time, as well as Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh, who is actually a close friend of his. But first of all, I'm going to quickly do a short bio about him and his wife, Lauren, which I think is just so beautiful, and it's part of the book as well. Stephen graduated from UCLA and Loyola Law School, entered the movie business in 1979, ran the film companies of legendary producers Ray Stark and Dino de Laurentiis, produced such films as Somewhere in Time and What Dreams May Come, co-founded the Spiritual Cinema Circle in 2004, and is a proud father, stepfather, grandfather, husband, and friend. After graduating from Arizona State University, Lauren first became a flight attendant with Continental Airlines, and then was named the airline's Flight Service Supervisor. She was also a clothing designer, a therapist working with young women with eating disorders, a Reiki Master, an actress with several film roles, a sought-after intuitive, and a very proud mother, stepmother, grandmother, wife, and friend. Stephen has said that if you would like to share your own experience of loving through the veil, he invites you to join him and Lauren at www.whatdreamsmaycome.com. So I'm going to put that in the chat box. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Stephen Steinman. I'm so glad you made it on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Irene. And thank you, all of you. The website, by the way, is whatdreamshavecome.com.
Oh, okay.
Not that's the film, which I know is can be confusing for people. You know, as I've done a lot of podcasts, and I've done a lot of interviews over almost 50 years in the film industry. They come very easily to me, frankly. I'm very lucky about that. This is the first one that I've been a little nervous to do. And someone asked me, one of our kids, our adult kids asked me why. And I said, you know what? There's an old saying that fits. I feel a little bit like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Yeah.
Because I am in awe of all of you for what you went through and survived. I think you all have gone through the toughest thing a human being can possibly experience. And I will tell you, I kind of hinted this to Elizabeth and to Irene, that I wanted to share with you as well. I don't believe in coincidences, and I certainly don't believe that this is a coincidence, because I have just spent the most of 2023 working with two shining light parents to develop a script that deals with this issue. And what they went through with their son, who was a star athlete and the president of his class, and an amazing 12-year-old boy who pitched a perfect game in the travel ball championship one year, which is kind of like the above Little League. One day came home and had a headache, passed out. They went through 5 years of trying to find out what was wrong with him, and they never found out. They never diagnosed. He was never diagnosed. And he passed right before his 18th birthday. And that is a minefield to try to do. And how they stayed together as a couple, and what they have done since then to support other families that are going through it. The movies that I am the most proud of, and the things that I am the most proud of in my life, are Somewhere in Time and What Dreams May Come, certainly Conversations with God, and the little film we made, Indigo, and the Spiritual Cinema Circle, and the book that Lauren and I wrote together. And then I am going to add to it, because this is going to be the swan song of my career, this film. Now, I can't tell you the title because we only have a working title, and I don't want to tell you the wrong title, because then you'll never know what it is. But we just literally tomorrow are receiving the script back from the proofreader, so that we can actually go out and try to put it together. So as I said, I don't consider these things accidents, and I am absolutely honored to be with all of you. To give you a little background about me, I am a very deeply spiritual person, not to any particular religion, although I respect all of them. My first experience with spirituality when I was just almost 5, and my father, my birth father, had died suddenly. My mother remarried, we moved into a new house, and I used to tell my parents that there was a man in my wall at night, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and they were obviously very worried about me. And they said, well, are you scared? And I'm like, no, don't make him go away. He's really nice. I really like having him there. Well, it wasn't until many years later that I obviously realized that was the spirit of my father, who wanted to be there with me to help me. I grew up loving movies from the 1940s, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, Lost Horizons, those kinds of films. And I was always attracted to them. In 1976, I was a lawyer. Please don't hold that against me. I don't do it anymore. I don't have to go to meetings to get out of it anymore, but I was a lawyer for a short period of time. And I worked, I read a book called Bid Time Return. And I just knew that that was the book that I needed to do to get into the film industry. My birth dad was a writer, director, producer, studio head at Columbia. He made movies with Abbott and Costello and the Marx Brothers, and Red Skelton was his best friend. And I know, talking to this group, I can see some of you will know who those people are. And my stepfather was also a film producer, so I obviously came to this world to make contributions through film. I read this book, begged my way into a job with Ray Stark, who had produced Funny Girl and a bunch of other films. First thing I did was call the agent for the writer of the book. We got together, we became friends. 3 years later, that book, Bid Time Return, became Somewhere in Time, which is the first film that I ever produced. When we were prepping Somewhere in Time, Richard Matheson, who wrote the book for that Somewhere in Time was based on, gave me the galleys of his next book, which was What Dreams May Come. And I remember saying to Richard, we're getting Somewhere in Time made. I'm sorry it took 3 years. I'm going to get What Dreams May Come made. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And I'm telling you right now, it won't take 3 years. And I was 100% right. It took 20. And over those 20 years, that's a whole podcast in and of itself. But it finally got put together. And boy, was it a challenge. My goodness, was it a challenge from every possible standpoint. And Elizabeth told me before we started the call that some of you have been fans of What Dreams May Come, but have an issue with where Annie was, and was it a result of her suicide? And boy, am I conscious of that issue. We were so conscious of that issue. And we talked about it forever in the script phase. We don't want anybody to get the message that suicides go to hell. That was not the message we wanted, and we didn't believe it. Frankly, I don't believe in hell. So, and neither do the rest of the people, either did Richard Matheson, okay? So I don't believe that at all. But she had to go to a place that was hellish for him to rescue her from. And that's why we created it. But when we did the scene between Robin and Cuba, where Cuba explains to Robin what's happened with Annie and why she's not joining them there, he says, Robin says, why would you do that to her? And Cuba answers very clearly, this was her choice. She has things she needs to work out, and she needs to do it in that environment. She's not going to know you. She's not going to, and basically you can't get there from here. And Robin was, but if I do get to her, then I can help her. I can say, and he's basically led to believe that he can, and then obviously he does. However, I had a number of encounters with people which just broke my heart. One in particular at a birthday party for a friend of mine who was told by somebody else in the room that I had produced What Dreams May Come. The film had just come out. And this very nice young man walked up to me and said, I have a friend in the Midwest who told me, I know you live in California. If you ever meet anybody that is involved with that film, will you give them a message for me? And I looked around for a football helmet because I knew something was coming. And very nice young man. And he said, she wants you to know that you're an inhuman monster. And I knew exactly where that came from, because she said she thought that's what our film said. And our film most certainly did not say that. And for any pain and any discomfort that caused to anybody, I want to tell you right now, I'm truly sorry. It was certainly not our intention. And that is not the point of What Dreams May Come. Okay. That and the Spiritual Cinema Circle, which we had for 16 years, and we sent out about 800 movies to our clients, all about uplifting films. That is why I believe the film that I have done with these Shining Light Parents is going to be the last one I do. And it's one that I know, be very proud of, and I think it's going to help a lot of people out there. It's also about how to keep a marriage together and how to turn that lemon into lemonade. The book that Lauren and I wrote. Lauren also is a very spiritual being. I refer to her in the present tense because only her body died, as many of you know, because you have your own communications. Lauren and I talked a lot about this while Lauren was still physical, because Lauren is a very spiritual person. She used to channel certain things with me. At one time, about 7 months before she passed, she said to me, honey, we need to design our afterlife. And she went into trance, and we talked about what we wanted our afterlife to be like together, how we would communicate with each other. We thought that I would be the one that went because I was 17 years older than Lauren. She's now I know totally tickled that I'm now 23 years older, or almost 23 years older than she is. Lauren was only 54, and she died one night suddenly in her sleep, actually in the early hours of the morning, and I found her in the morning. Obviously, I went into shock, and I knew that Lauren would eventually get in touch with me, and 6 weeks later, she did. It's in our book how that happened. I'm not going to spend the time now going through it, but she got in touch with me in a way that she knew that I would know it was her. And I know that you all who have relationships with your children, I'm sure have faced from friends skepticism about whether you're just making this up to comfort yourself. I got that a lot, even from my own family. You know, a little worried about dad because, you know, Lauren's talking to him, he's talking to her, they're connecting, etc. And a lot of people who don't understand this think that you're several tacos short of a combination plate, right? I mean, they don't think that you're actually being rational and reasonable, but you are, and we all know we are. So I was having dinner one night, about 9 months after Lauren transitioned, in Ashland, Oregon. I live just outside of Portland, and Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, who is my brother from a different mother, who I'm actually going to go visit this weekend. Neil and his wife and I were having dinner one night, and we talk about this in detail in the book, but we were in a restaurant in Ashland that had not had any rain in about 7 or 8 months. And I had started to make notes on yellow pads about the conversations with Lauren, what she would say to me and what I would say to her. And as Elizabeth quite correctly said, it was very much automatic writing when it came to her. All of the communications I've had with her, and I know this is difficult for a lot of people to understand, but I'm pretty sure this group will. I don't hear Lauren's physical voice. I feel her voice in my heart, and it translates to words. Now, that is very, very difficult for people to grasp and to accept. But I know exactly when she is talking to me. I know when her energy is around, because there's a physical tell that happens that lets me know that she's here and lets me know that we're going to have some kind of interaction. We still laugh a lot together, mostly at me, which is what we did when she was alive. And I am a husband full of flaws, so it's very easy to make fun of me. She gets a great delight out of doing that, and I get a great delight out of her getting a great delight of doing that. We wrote the book, and the book came to me that night with Neil, because Neil asked me how I was doing, and I said, it's kind of like you, Neil, because when Neil got the messages with Conversations with God, that's what he did. He wrote everything down on a lot of yellow legal pads just for himself as a diary. So that's what happened with me. And I said, well, I'm writing this stuff down, and I have a feeling it should be a book. Outside the window, big lightning flash. There had been no rain in Ashland for like months. This is the end of September of 2018. And we both went like that. And he said, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore. I know what the title of the book should be. What dreams have come, another lightning strike. Then I said to him, I have this weird feeling that Lauren and I should write this together, another lightning strike. We were stunned by that. And it wasn't until I went home and got a chance to be quiet and connect with Lauren, and Lauren said, honey, that's not me. I can't do that. But I'm pretty sure that the universe was giving you the message that we do need to write this book together. And we did. Everything, if you do see the book, everything that Lauren said to me is in a different font from my conversations with her. So they're very specific. And I didn't edit a word. It came out exactly the way she dictated it to me. And it took us about 1.5 years to do it and get it out into the world. And the reason that we did it, the prime reason that we did it, and then self-published it on Amazon, is because we wanted other people to know you're not alone. That the veil has thinned over the last many years. This communication is not only possible, I know a lot of you, if not all of you, are having that communication. And I hope it will be something that will give some inspiration to people as they realize that, yes, physical death is physical death, and it's very hard to adjust to having that that other person not there. And I'm not even beginning to say that I understand what you guys have been through, because I don't. I think this is somewhat similar to a man saying to his pregnant wife, I know what you're feeling, which is a request for murder that you shouldn't do. And so I don't in any way think that I understand what you're going through. And this experience I've just had with these other parents really has taught me a great deal about human resilience. And that is why we wrote the book. So let me stop there for a second, Elizabeth, because I can tend to go on. What would you like me to do now?
I think that what you've done so far is absolutely perfect. And I think that the people who are experiencing listening to their children and being able to automatically write, or just being able to live day to day with them, it's the same experience for most people that I have spoken to, meaning that it's not exactly the same physical voice. It's actually their voice, but it's expressions that they would never say. It's the expressions that their children always say. And I think it's so beautiful that you have that same experience with Lauren. And I just think that for someone who's had all of the life experiences that you've had, and who has worked with so many incredible people in Hollywood and otherwise, to be able to sit back and understand that being able to communicate and being able to connect with our loved ones in spirit is something that's real and that is very, very healing. And I would assume that this is something that's healed you greatly from the passing of the physical body of Lauren, is absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to ask you what your thoughts on the way that Hollywood looks at movies like this, because I'd love to hear a little bit more of the story about Somewhere in Time and Christopher Reeves, because I just think that that is such a fun story to hear.
Oh, okay. I will definitely tell you about that. What does Hollywood think of these kind of movies?
Yeah.
Okay. They hate these kind of movies, and they don't understand them. Hollywood, there are two things you cannot be in Hollywood. And unfortunately, this is just the truth. You cannot be a political conservative, and you cannot be a Christian or any kind of devoted religious person, because they are terrified by it. They don't believe in it. They're somewhat embarrassed by it, which is really a shame. And they see it all as fantasy. And, why would anybody believe that? The thing is, when movies get made by people in this genre, by people who don't really understand them, they can be really, really clunky. I'm not going to mention some of them, but they have. But when they're made by people who really get it, who really understand it, Bruce Joel Rubin, who wrote the script for Ghost, which was obviously a giant success. Bruce is an old friend of mine. It took Bruce 10 years to get that movie made, 10 years. And he finally got a phone call from Paramount saying, we have a director who's interested in your script. And Bruce was like, oh, fantastic, finally. And who? David Zucker. You mean one of the brothers that made the airplane movies? That guy wants to direct Ghost? And they were like, meet with him. So he did. And Bruce called me and he said, I got to tell you, this guy has a great vision for the movie, but he taught me something really important, Stephen, that you need to keep in mind for dreams. And because at that time I'd had dreams for probably 10 years already. The Whoopi Goldberg, for those of you who saw Ghost, and I'm assuming a lot of you, if not most of you have, that character in Bruce's original script was a man and was just a con man, period, flat out con man. And what Bruce said, what David said to Bruce was, movies like this, the audience has to have a break from time to time. You need to have some humor because the audience has to catch its breath. The experience is too intense. So he said, I want to make her into a woman. I'm going to cast Whoopi Goldberg because Whoopi will be great. But the twist will be she knows she's a con woman until Patrick Swayze actually gets through to her. And she's as surprised as Demi Moore is that this is actually coming through to her. I learned a great lesson from that, was to try to have humor in these films. If you just show me your hand, I don't want to get into this story in too much detail, if not enough. How many of you have seen the movie Somewhere in Time? Okay, quite a few of you have. So I will do a shorter version of this, but it is a wonderful Hollywood story. We developed this movie at Universal, this little old-fashioned romantic 1940s melodrama, which is really what it was supposed to be. They developed the script as a favor to me because I had, as an executive, done Smokey and the Bandit for them, which wound up being a big hit. And for the director, Jeannot Swark, who had come in and saved the movie Jaws 2. So they developed it, but we knew they didn't really have much of an intent to make it. So we finally had the big meeting with the studio head. Every development project finally has the meeting where you find out whether they're going to go ahead with it or not. And we sit in the room with this great guy named Ned Tannen, and he looked at Jeannot and me and he said, "You know, I love you guys. Kiss of death. Kiss of death. When they start off by saying, I love you guys, you know, the biggest butt in the whole world is coming after it." He said, "But we're not going to make this one." And I said, I just blurted out, "What if we get Christopher Reeve?" I hadn't thought about doing that. It just came out of my mouth. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I wanted to put it back in. I thought the director would kill me. This is January of 1980. The month before, Superman 1 had been released, and Chris was the biggest star in the world at that time, getting offered everything you can possibly imagine. And we had a small budget, this old-fashioned romantic fantasy. And I said, Ned, well, wait a minute. What if we don't get Chris Reeve? And he said, then don't come back, Stephen. But if you get Chris Reeve, we'll make this movie. So the director and I leave. The director's looking for a tree to hang me from. And I called Chris's agent, who laughed in my face. He said, that little time travel movie you have at Universal, I'm getting more offers just for him than your budget. So I'm not even showing him the script, no. And I said, you have to show him the script, it's your job. Don't tell me my job. And he hung up on me. So Jeannot says, what are we going to do? So get in the car, we're going to go for a drive. Any of you who have ever been to LA know that along Sunset Boulevard, they sell maps to stars' homes. Now, I grew up in West LA, and I know most of them are just a bunch of baloney. If I tell you Bruce Willis is living in that house, how do you know it is unless Bruce is out mowing the lawn, right? So I said, we're going to get a star map. And he said, are you crazy? And I said, no, because we're desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. So we got the star map, and sure enough, Chris Reeve up in the Hollywood Hills shows up on it. And I said, come on, we're going. I said, I'm not going with you. And I said, you're in the car, you're going with me, you're the director. So we go and we're walking up the walkway, and he's muttering to me and shaking his head, and we knock on the door. And of course, Chris answers the door. At which point I'm like, I'm a producer and he's a director, and we have a movie at Universal that we want you to star in. It's an old-fashioned romantic fantasy. And then I said what he told me later was the key phrase, but your agent won't even show it to you. And he looked at me, he said, he won't even show it to me? And I said, no. And he said, have you got a copy? And I said, yes. I ran to the car, got a copy, gave it to him. Write your phone number down. I'll call you tomorrow. So he calls me. He says, get your director, come to the house. So we go in the house, we walk in the room, and he said, I got two things to tell you guys. Number one, this is going to be my next movie. And number two, I just fired my agent. His agent never spoke to me again, quite understandably. Chris later told me that his agent had presented like a $3 or $4 million offer to him, which in 1980 was a significant amount of money for an actor to get. It still is, but today the big stars get 30, sometimes 40. The agent had sent him a movie in which Chris was going to play a Viking, not the Minnesota Viking football player, one of the ones with big inverted gourds on their head. And Chris said, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. And I said, we have $500,000 for our star. That's it. He said, good, I'll take it. Let's go. So that began the journey of Somewhere in Time, which is what Elizabeth wanted me to confer to you. And if you guys have any, I want to do things that you guys are interested in. Can we do questions, Elizabeth? Is that possible for people?
Questions, but I have to just add two different things to this.
Sure.
First of all, I think that he had just starred in the Superman series, so he was one of the most sought after actors.
He was the most sought after actor at that point.
So that's just amazing that he was. And second, that story made me love Christopher Reeve even more. I mean, I just think that that's one of the most beautiful things, that he would agree to do that movie, that people are writing in the chat box about saying that it is their favorite movie and that lots of people are watching it again. I think that that's such an exciting story.
I appreciate that. Well, then if that's the case, I'll throw one other story in.
Okay.
So once we got Chris, every young actress in Hollywood wanted the part of Elise McKenna, everybody. And so we were reading person after person after person. And Chris wanted to be involved in all the readings. By the way, that's a whole other story, but Chris was a superhero on the screen and he was a superhero in life. After his accident, he was more of a superhero. That's a whole other story. So we're doing these interviews. And so we asked Jennifer, our casting agent, who's next? And she said, it's a young actress named Jane Seymour. What's she been in? She was in a James Bond movie, I think Casino Royale. That's it? Well, she's done a couple of TV things. Okay. Why are we seeing her? Because her agent asked, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So Jane walks into the bungalow that we have at Universal in this extraordinary 1912 dress that she had made for the audition. She came in and introduced herself as Elise McKenna. And she sat down with Chris and they did the reading. And the cast, Jennifer, our casting person, and Jeannot and I both had the same thought. Maybe we should just leave the room to the two of them, because the chemistry between the two of them, I mean, you literally were like, oh my goodness, are you kidding? She was hired on the spot. And that became her signature, obviously her signature film. They had a torrid affair, which they have, she has talked about openly, particularly since Chris's passing. And it's what made happen on the screen. You see a love story happening that is really happening. It's not actors pretending, it's real. So anyway, that was Somewhere in Time. There's a lot of other stories. What else can we go to?
Well, I just wanted to quickly say that you have worked with some of the most incredible actors in Hollywood, and some of the nicest ones too. Everyone's saying that Robin and obviously Christopher are some of their favorite Hollywood actors, and they truly are heroes, both in on cinema and in real life. But I also wanted to say that it's kind of interesting that you made movies with Keanu Reeves, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, back before Keanu Reeves was and is this incredible icon of Hollywood kindness. I guess that everyone looks to him as being one of the nicest people in Hollywood. And Irene was wanting to ask you about what it was like to work with Robin Williams as well. So maybe, Irene, if you could just,
no, he just seemed like he had such incredible energy. And I was wondering if he was like that when you worked with him.
Are you talking about Keanu or Robin?
Robin.
Okay, Robin, like most comedians, and I do mean most comedians, in person, in real life, when he's not in the public eye, was a very serious person. Robin was extremely well read. He was an art connoisseur. He had so many different interests, and he was a very, very, very serious, bright guy. When we came up with the whole thing with What Dreams May Come, when we finally had the right script, I had one company that was willing to make it. And it became very expensive because of the visual effects, which I'm very proud of the fact that we actually won the Academy Award for that in 1998 for best visual effects for that film. We were told we had to get one of two actors, Tom Hanks or Robin Williams. We couldn't get Tom Hanks because he was committed to Saving Private Ryan and other films going on. We were again summoned to Robin's house in San Francisco. The director, Vincent Ward, and I flew to San Francisco. Robin walked in the room and he said, "Okay, guys, I'm going to end the suspense. Here's the good news. I am absolutely going to star in this movie. Here's the better news. I'm going to play every single part in the movie. Every one. I'm going to play them all." And we obviously knew that he was joking. How Robin actually transitioned is just a really dreadful thing. You know, I don't know if many of you know he had Lewy body dementia, and that is one of the most horrible things that a human being can contract. And it literally drove him mad. And I'm very sorry that that was the end of Robin's life, but he caused a lot of joy for everybody. He was not a happy camper on the set. That was a very serious movie. And they all took it very seriously. As a matter of fact, when Robin, as Chris, the character in What Dreams May Come, when he does the eulogy for his children who have been killed in a car accident, and there are two children's coffins in this church, when Robin got up to do the eulogy, he took pictures of his kids and pasted them on the lectern so that he was actually saying that eulogy to his own children. That was a very, very powerful experience. And Robin was a great guy. Keanu was just a kid when I worked with him. I mean, he was really a kid. He hadn't really done anything. Yeah, Bill and Ted was a lot of fun, I must say. It was spiritual, I'm not so sure. But it certainly was a lot of fun.
Well, we have a question from Deb asking if Robin believed in the afterlife. Is that something that you were aware of, or do you know?
You know, I don't remember specifically talking to Robin about that. And so the answer to the question is I actually don't know. I actually don't know.
But now, no matter what, he now does.
But I also know he was very, very proud of it, because he, at one point, a couple of years later, he got a message to me from a mutual friend saying, "Tell Stephen that I spent an evening with Prince, the singer, and Prince said Dreams was his favorite movie of all time." Robin was very, very proud of the movie, very proud of it, and we all were.
It's an incredible movie, and yes, Judy's saying that Keanu also had a daughter pass before he knew her, so that was actually during pregnancy or right after pregnancy. Yes, and at the end of your book, you have an incredible list of movies that you recommend, and maybe you could give us some highlights of those movies. So this is at the end of What Dreams Have Come.
And I have to tell you, I don't have a copy of the book around. I gave away my last copy, but I do remember some of the movies in it. And the reason that Lauren and I did that is because these are movies that Lauren and I watched together several times. Some of them are movies that you probably, I see Judy asking, is it on Kindle? Yes, it's on Kindle. Some of which we watched several times. And there are movies on that list that you may not have heard of, one of which is the Adjustment Bureau. I don't know if any of you have seen that movie. That is a fantastic hidden gem, that movie. And with the cast, it should not have been a hidden gem. It's Emily Blunt and, oh my goodness, help me, I can't remember the name of the actor.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, thank you very much. Sometimes at 77, I do have those senior moments. Some time ago, I couldn't find my sunglasses and I found them later in the freezer. So those things do happen from time to time. Anyway, The Adjustment Bureau is a fantastic movie about the difference between free will and destiny. And I highly recommend that. There is a movie called The 13th Floor that almost nobody has seen. Yeah. It came and go without any kind of a mention, but it is a fantastic movie that illustrates something that is going on today in the world of science, certainly in the world of quantum physics, which is trying to answer the following question. What if life is the dream, and when we die, we wake up? Is this what we're doing here? Is this, quote, reality, or is this the dream? And is the other side reality? And we talk about this in the book. I have always felt, and Lauren completely agreed with me, conversations we have about these type of things now, I keep private between Lauren and myself, because I know that there are certain things that she can't tell me, frankly, that she can't. And there are also times that I think maybe sometimes I kind of intuit things that are about to come next. But Lauren and I always believed that the phrase that which you think becomes your world. In life and in afterlife as well, what is the afterlife like? I don't think there's an answer to that, because I think that's up to every individual experience. Everyone has their own different visions of that, of what it should be and what it would be. Different religions have different visions of that. And people like me who are spiritual, like Lauren, that don't have a particular religion that we adhere to. There was a wonderful writer named Thomas Monroe who called that afterlife experience, where we all kind of go according to our beliefs and views. He called that experience islands of consensual realities. And it's such a great phrase, because that which you believe, why should that not be your afterlife experience? If you believe it to be something, why should it not be that? It's not going to be somebody else's belief of what you're going to experience, because we're individuals and we have individual lives. That is something that happened, that was brought up to me when I had my heart attack. And I had a heart attack in 2011. My heart stopped 4 times. And twice at home, once in the ambulance and once in the hospital. And I also had a lot of people say to me, did you have any experience after that? And I always used to say no, because I didn't want to get into it. And the only person I ever told about it was Lauren, that I did have a brief experience. And I did. I'm not going to get into it because it's a longer story that we don't have time to get into now. But I did have an experience that made me convinced that what was to come is going to be really beautiful. And I don't see why in the world we can't all have that and be reunited with our loved ones and have everybody be healthy and happy. That is why we put this book into the world. And what I believe our future as human beings is. Am I a cockeyed optimist? Yes, I am. And I see that as being something that I want to share through my films and through our book.
That's beautiful. And I must say that we believe that our kids are home and we're still in school. So we're still here to learn something. And they have graduated and they're home. And they are completely happy, healthy, and whole. And all of our kids are friends. So they're all together with Lauren.
Oh, that's very cool.
But that's the way that we've seen this so many times. And Candy has a fabulous question, and I wonder if you could maybe answer this, because this is something that that talks about the book. And I think that people would love to hear more about automatic writing. Can you share your writing process with Lauren? Do you write with her daily? Do you meditate before, morning, night, binaural beats? And by the way, she also agrees that we create our own reality here and in the afterlife. That's why so many near-death experiencers have had different experiences. So maybe you could share a little bit about how you did this.
All right. So what happened with that is that, you know, obviously as you all understand, I kind of descended into the pit of grief and was pretty inconsolable for quite some time. A lot of things in my life fell apart after that. And it was a difficult time, as I don't have to tell you. When Lauren finally came through to me and we began to have our interactions, it occurred to me very early on that I wanted to keep a diary, because I knew I would not remember a lot of the things that we talked about unless I wrote them down, because of where I was emotionally at that time. And so I started writing on these legal pads, which is how Neil wrote Conversations with God. And I would talk to her out loud, and then I would write her answer. And I was really completely not conscious of what I was writing. It was really her dictating to me. And I made a practice of not reading what she was saying until after she stopped talking, so that I could go back and see if I was writing anything that made any sense, because, you know, sometimes it's just a kind of and it came out in full sentences and in full paragraphs. And it was very clear the things that she would say to me. And I went through, as I'm sure I'm saying something that I know you guys relate to, I went through a lot of guilt. What could I have done? Could I have found her sooner? If I had found her sooner, I could have revived her. When I found her, she was already cold. There was nothing that I could do. And one of the great things that happened with Lauren was telling me, honey, the reason you weren't there sooner is because your higher self and my higher self, because we are twin flames, we are intertwined souls, didn't want you to be in there. That was my time. I had to leave at that time. And this is why you and I had all these conversations before. And she knew it was coming. I know she knew it was coming. One night, I think it was a week or two before she transitioned, she did something she never asked me to do before. She said, honey, pray for me. And it scared me terribly. And I said, are you afraid you're going to die? And she had had stage 3 thyroid cancer, but she had been completely cured of it. It was gone. So she had no remnant of it. So there was no reason to believe. But as being an intuitive, she knew that something was coming. And I think I did too. So when we started these communications, that's how I wrote. And a dear friend of mine who I asked to edit the book for me when it was done for us, came up with the idea of doing Lauren's part of it in a different font so that it was very, very clear that was Lauren. And as you will see, there's a whole chapter on her humor and how she used to just, and still does, love to torture me and make sure that I know that she's still watching me. But if I want to get her back, I sing to her, because I have the world's worst singing voice ever. Nobody has a worse singing voice than me. So I sing to her. So it kind of gets us even. And, you know, I think there should be, you know, I hate to say this again, long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. When we can, we need to have some fun with it, because we are still here. And I know that Lauren is so much happier when the first couple of years, I was completely inconsolable. I don't remember a lot about 2018, 2019 at all. And I know that when she finally got through to me as, sweetheart, you're there because you still have things to do, but I'm here and I'll be here. And as a dear friend of ours who is an amazing intuitive said, Stephen, whenever it is that you go, you know, she is probably, if you do go in some bed in a hospital or home, she's going to be standing on the bed over you. And the second she can grab you and take you out, she's going to do it. You know, she's going to be there for you at the end, which is what I know all of our loved ones will be for us, so that we can actually experience that joy on the other side with them. So yeah, it's really difficult for me to be here physically without her, but it has been almost 6 years. So I have gotten used to this. But I still miss that. No, we don't do that kind of writing anymore. There won't be another book. And after I finish this other film, there won't be any other films. I am 77. I'm going to retire and spend a lot of time with our grandchildren and our kids. But I got one more to do, and it's going to be this one.
We're very excited about that movie. And I just want to say, so Candy is answering. So the secret to automatic writing is to be a bad singer. Oh, she's gotten a lot of laughs about that.
I would say the secret, it's not that. Kathy, I see your comment. Yes, we will have a lot of screenings. And believe me, you will. And I will get back to Elizabeth, and hopefully we'll do another one of these when the film is ready to come out, wherever it comes out, whether it's in a theater or it's on a streaming service. You know, Hollywood has changed a whole lot over the years, particularly because of the pandemic. And it's actually easier now to get a movie on Netflix or on Amazon Prime or on one of those streaming services than it is to get it into a theater. Wherever it goes, whatever the delivery system is, I assure you, I will let you know way in advance. We'll probably have a whole bunch of advanced screenings for different groups, and we'll try to arrange one for your group as well. That will come at that right time.
That sounds wonderful. And I just want to tell you that when you're talking about Lauren and her wanting you to be happy, we know that our kids want us to be happy too. And we also know that they walk beside us, holding our hands and leading us towards healing. And they are our biggest cheerleaders, just like Lauren standing on your bed, ready to drag you over to the other side. And it's just been so wonderful to be able to hear you speak. You're just such a kind and caring person, and you've been in an industry that is obviously very unforgiving in many cases and difficult, and you were a groundbreaker in the field of the afterlife, and we truly appreciate those wonderful movies that you have created for us. And I also am very excited about this new one. And I is saying that it's been an amazing meeting, fun and interesting and enlightening, as well as just obviously this has been delightful. Thank you, Stephen, and for all of you who are behind helping parents heal.
I also want to say something before we jump off.
Sure.
If you go to the website, you will see that my email address is on the website. And I say this to every group I've talked to, and I'm going to say it to you guys as well. If you want to share your story with me, oh, that is very sweet. I don't know who is hugging. It looks like her daughter. Yes, but is that I see a ponytail. So yeah. Or is it a cat? Oh, it's a cat. Okay. Anyway, if you want to share your story with me, I promise you two things. Number one, I will never, ever share. No one has access to this email other than me. I will never share it with anybody. And I promise you, I will respond. Depending on the time, it usually takes me at least 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it takes a week, depending on how many communications I get. But I promise you, I will respond to every single one, because I think it's important that that everybody be heard and everybody know that their story has been heard. I think that's incredibly important. So if you want to get in touch with me that way, please do. Just be patient with me. If I haven't responded within a week, I promise you I will. Again, it just depends on how many people are trying to get in touch with me at the same time. And I send you all so much love and to your kids, so much love and my incredible admiration for your courage and your love for your kids and for the world that you've been willing to share these experiences. I know in the book that I thought was just beautiful and wonderful. And I've been very honored to be here with you. And I think my tail is intact.
Definitely.
Thank you. Read the book. It's
stuff.
such a wonderful book.
And
Get the book.
It's a very easy read. And I just want you to all know the the movies he mentions are things like Midnight in Paris, Cocoon, It's a Wonderful Life. And then he talks about them, the reasons that he and Lauren think that they are so important. And there are lots of them in the back end. That is also something that's very fun about this book. But we always ask everyone to unmute and say thank you and good evening. So if you all would like to do so.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. This was
Thank you
wonderful.
so much.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you very
Stephen.
much.
Good night,
Absolutely beautiful.
everybody.
Thank you so
Bye,
much,
everybody.
Stephen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
you.
Thanks, Irene.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you. It was awesome. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.